It's finally Friday.
It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show presented by Woodbine. I'm Scott Jagow along with Ray Paulick. Thanks so much for joining us. Coming up, we'll talk about the implications of a new surveillance system at Santa Anita. But first, California Chrome is back in action this weekend, Beholder's back in action, and we're only about 5 weeks from the Breeders' Cup, where year-end championships are usually decided. This year, there is a possible scenario, Ray, where we have 4 undefeated horses in different divisions. California Chrome, Songbird, Tepin, Flincher. So if that happens, who should be Horse of the Year?
It won't be unanimous, but it's a slam dunk. It should be California Chrome. He's a 1.25 mile dirt horse. That's the foundation on which the American Thoroughbred is based. The classic distance of 1.25 miles on dirt. That's what he's excelled at. He won the Pacific Classic at that distance. He won the Dubai World Cup. And if he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, he would have done it again. So to me, there's absolutely no question about it. He would be a deserving winner.
I agree he would be a deserving winner. I agree that that's what will happen. What I don't like about the situation, though, is that there won't be any debate. I think there should be a debate, and I think you can make an argument for a couple of these other horses, looking at their resumes side by side and saying, who had the most impressive year, whatever their division might be. So I would look at Tepin and say, wow, she beat the males 3 times. She won at Royal Ascot. She won the Woodbine Mile in Canada. And then she goes and wins the Breeders' Cup Mile. I would have to say that's 8 races, 6 different racetracks. I might vote for her over California Chrome, not to take anything away from what he has done. If you won a close race in the Breeders' Cup Classic, I might have to look at that. I would at least spend a little bit of time on it. I just don't think that most people will.
Well, the thing is, if you think Tepin is better than California Chrome, convince her connections to enter in the Breeders' Cup Classic. They all have a chance to run in the same race.
That's not what she does. I get it, but 1.25 miles on the dirt, I understand that's the traditional standard. But boy, the standards are getting lower and lower when you look at recent times. There are fewer and fewer horses that can run successfully at that distance on dirt. And California Chrome happens to be one of them, and he's kind of dominant in the division because he can do that one thing. I'm not saying that California Chrome shouldn't be Horse of the Year. I'm just saying we should have a debate about it and not necessarily hand it to him like he's the number one horse at the start of the year in voters' minds, as he was, and that there's the number 2, let's say it's college football, the number 1 team ranked at the beginning has to be knocked off, even though the number 2 team might be undefeated at the end of the season and actually probably had a better season.
Well, they have the playoffs in college football now, so the number 2 team will be able to play the number 1 team, and we have the Breeders' Cup Classic in horse racing. If you want to have Tepin or Songbird or Flincher up for the Horse of the Year, enter the Classic. It's not too late.
Yeah, okay. That's old school thinking. I get it. Stay in your box. That's fine. We'll move on now and talk about something else.
They've got to win this weekend first, and Tepin's got another race. She's got to win at Keeneland before we have this scenario of the 4 unbeatens, which, by the way, would be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, and it would be great for racing, and that really should be what we celebrate. I just hope we can at least talk about it and have a conversation after the Breeders' Cup. All right. Well, let's move on and talk about this is what Joe Morris, the Santa Anita executive, said about this new surveillance system.
For Santa Anita and the Stronach Group, there's nothing more important than the safety of our horses, backstretch workers, equine athletes, and human athletes. Nothing more important than the integrity of our sport or the transparency of our sport.
So, Ray, this surveillance system will have 1,000 cameras. Theoretically, a lot more eyes on the backstretch. What do you think this is going to accomplish?
Most racing commissions and racing boards across the country have had budget cuts, and one of the things that have been cut out of budgets are investigators, boots on the ground. With surveillance cameras, you can get over that hurdle because you've got a camera in every barn, multiple cameras in these barns, 1,000 cameras on the backstretch, and you'll be able to basically look in and see what's going on in every barn. If a private vet goes into the stall of a horse on the day of a race, something they're not supposed to do in California, you've got it on camera. Last year at the Breeders' Cup, they had cameras on every horse at the Keeneland stables, and unfortunately, there was an incident that they didn't catch, but it was caught on. They had it on, I think, on videotape, where a private vet, did go into a barn and give Lasix to a horse when it was supposed to be done by a state veterinarian. That wasn't caught when it happened, but they could go back and see it on the videotape and say, yes, this is exactly what happened.
Right, and that's one of the issues here. I said in theory. In practice, you still have to look at the videotape. You still have to have eyes on it, so it does require manpower. So I wonder if it will actually do what it's supposed to do, in that there will be people actually looking at the video, okay? But I do love this because it's a proactive step beyond drug testing, because we know drug testing is not 100% effective for certain. There are things that are undetectable. There are new things that trainers come up with that they use that aren't being caught by a drug test. And Barry Irwin wrote a good column about this at Thoroughbred Racing Commentary, talking about how we all have to be aware, and that drug testing is not the end-all, be-all. And it's not, Lance Armstrong never tested positive, but he was cheating. So this is great in that respect. And I think when you look at when people get caught in this sport, it's usually someone sees something, someone says something, or it's caught on video.
One thing that can happen here is if a trainer all of a sudden goes from a 5 or 10%er to a 25 or 35% winning trainer, they can start looking at the barn very carefully. These cameras can zoom in, they can see what's going on. And, this is not profiling. This is just using the tools that are there. And I think every track, every racing commission across the country should look at this setup and say, is this something we can do? Because it's got to be good for everybody concerned. It's got to be good for the horsemen, good for the bettors, and it's good for the regulators too.
Well, what do you think? Will this increase your confidence in the game of horse racing by having more surveillance on the backstretch? Let us know by answering the poll on our website, PaulickReport.com. That's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show presented by Woodbine. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.